Hello crafters, it's Kathy here from Scrap and Bean, and today I'm going to be making some cards, so I thought why not invite you to join me. So I am trying out for the first time these from Stampendous, this quick cards backgrounds, and let me see if I can't get rid of this cord out of our vision here. That's better. Still figuring out my new video station here, so hopefully it'll work for us good today. So these happen to be called the Joyous Spring, and these are, I would say, a heavier kind of, it's heavier than scrapbook paper. It's one-sided. You get in the pack, you get 4 sheets. They're 8.5 by 11. You get 2 designs of each. So this one, I really like that. That is my favorite. And then what are the other 2 out of the pack? These 2 here that I'm already bearing. So a nice kind of a muted pastel tones. And of course, these are better in real life than what they show up on videos. And then this one as well. So this is like a mixed media background without you having to go through all the steps of mixed media. However, I think it would be kind of fun to create that background as well. So I may try to duplicate something like that. But today I'm going to use, I believe this one here I will use. And also this new spring stamp set. I really like the Stampendous. I like their style. But they also often give you some ideas right on your packaging. So while you get a lot of stamps on here, if you just flip it over, they give you an idea for one card already. And I like this idea that they have where in the background, they have created their own design just by using stamps that are in the pack. So you can see the various butterfly stamps back there and some of these little floral. So these little floral background pieces and the butterflies. So why not use your stamp set to create some background as well? So that's another way that you can get some quick background paper that'll match your stamp set. So I thought today I would make a slimline card so that we have space to do quite a bit on it. And for the slimline, I'm going to go 8.5 inches long and 4 inches high. So if I fold the card, now I need it to be 8 inches. So I'm going to get out my trimmer here. It's a little bit stiff. And cut it to 8 inches. Set that aside on my pile of tools on my desk. And then I'm going to use my score pal here to mark the 4-inch. And then I will fold it at that 4-inch mark. And that gives me a nice, perfect crease with no cracking, just a nice fold on there. So we have our folded base. I'll just set that aside. And then this piece, I want it to mat on there. So I will cut that down, bring back my paper trimmer. So this is 4 inches across. So if I'm going to mat it, I'm going to go 1/4 inch smaller. So that being 4 inches, then I know I'm going to go 3 3/4 inches. So I can get several more cards of a variety of sizes out of those papers. And then, so now we have it. So we're having a white mat on the top and the bottom. Now I want to cut it 1/4 inch smaller on the sides. And this being 8.5, my card base is 8.5 inches wide. So I'm going to trim this down to 8 1/4 inches. And yeah, I'll take it off this side. I could take it off either end, but we'll take it off there. And I sometimes save these strips because you can put them on the inside of your card as well to just decorate up the side. So that can be kind of fun. So I don't throw those out, even those little pieces, until I'm actually done with my project in case I might want to use them. So I can put that aside, and now I can just check that I have cut things okay. And we can see that that has a nice matting around the edge, all 4 sides. So I know that's ready to go. Set my base aside again. Set aside my extra papers because I don't need those. And then I'm going to take out my stamp set here. And I want to do a little bit of background stamping on here. So we have all of these really nice spring stamps, including just a general sentiment on here. The hello is just kind of any purpose, and have a happy day. Isn't that nice too? So take that clear sheet away for now, but I do save that for later. I'm going to take my stamps off of here. Now, the very first time you use your stamps out of a package, I'm getting off camera, the very first time you use them, they can have a little bit of dust on there. Like when they're cutting out the shapes of these stamps, it will create a little bit of this kind of polymer dust. And if any of that is on the surface here, the first time you stamp it, you don't always get a real good image. Sometimes you do, but not always. So a good rule of thumb is to either stamp it once on a piece of scrap paper, or use stamp cleaner and clean your stamp first and then stamp with it. So I don't have my stamp cleaner handy, so I'm just going to grab this label from the package, flip that over, and use that as my scrap paper to stamp it for the very first time. Or maybe even a couple of times, just until I know that it's cleaned off and I'm going to get a good image. So we'll try it here. And I don't really care what it stamps like. I'm just using it to clean off the stamp. And it actually stamped pretty good, but there's a couple places that didn't come really good. So it could have been, you know, because I'm just doing it fast and not really pressing everywhere. Or it could be that it's getting some of that initial factory residue off of there. So I'll just try it one more time. And then it should be pretty well cleaned up. Any kind of dust will have stuck to the ink and stuck to my paper, and then that's just to discard. Now I'm going to actually stamp on my surface here. And is there a right upside and a downside? Not really, except on the background here there is a little bit of writing that goes slanted, so I'm going to have it this direction rather than that way. It would seem a little more upside down. And I'm going to start with a little bit of stamping of my flowers. I don't really care about getting the stems on there, so I'm not even going to bother putting much ink on the stems, but I'll put some ink on all the rest of these. Now you could use a stamp platform or something like that, but I'm going to be moving my stamp along a few times. So I'll start over here, and I'm going to have the design even go right off the edge of the paper. Oh, I have handy here my stamping tool. That just saves the heel of my hand from pressing on the block so hard, and generally gives me a good image. Perfect. Then I'll ink this up again. And I'm really kind of only worried about those two top flowers because I'm just having my flowers grow right off the bottom of the card here. And maybe we'll just do kind of a single flower on there this time. And it doesn't hurt to have your ink just like your inked stamp sit onto the paper, just to give that ink a chance to transfer from your stamp onto your paper, just letting it sit there for a few moments. And this time we'll go up a little bit higher on the edge. Maybe about like that. So you can see that even though I own a stamp platform, I don't always use it. Mostly I do, but with this one I'm going to keep moving it into different places. I just find it simpler with a block. There we go. So we've got some nice images of flowers on there. And then I like to keep my stamps back onto this plastic sheet that comes in the package. So I'll put that back on there. Wouldn't hurt to clean that off if you like. And then I want to use some butterflies too. So maybe I'll do the butterfly. ink that up, and then we'll have a butterfly perhaps landing near that. Well, we'll have it flying. I'll have it flying over here. And it didn't stamp perfectly, but that's okay. Oh, because I didn't do what I originally told you to do. The first time you stamp it off on scrap paper, right? So, of course, I should pull in my scrap paper again and just get that stamp, make sure it's cleaned off good. And that's stamping better already. So it's that first stamp that doesn't always do so good. Well, I know I'm going to have to change my plan a little bit because now this one didn't stamp very well. So I kind of want to cover that up with something else. So let's go back to these flowers. Okay, that works. Should I put some more flowers up there? No, I don't think so. Okay, butterfly facing the other direction. Now see if I can go back to my scrap paper and stamp that off at least once. And it doesn't matter if I stamp over other designs. I'm just cleaning off my stamp of any factory residue that might be there. And then I want to have a good stamped image of a butterfly, maybe about right there. That's where I set it down, that's where it's going to go. Oh, and I think I just moved my block. There may be a few spots on here I need to cover up. We shall see. No, so there I have a bit of a base here. And I would also like to have, I wanted to cover up this butterfly that did not stamp very well for me. So I think what I will do, yeah, he's going to end up being covered up like that. I'm going to cut this piece down to the width of my card, which was 4 inches, right? So I will go 4 inches, or the height of my card, I guess. And, oh, that's the height of my finished card. Okay, so I know as I'm building it, I'm going to go about like this and about like that. So that'll be fine. And I want to stamp, maybe while I have the butterfly on here, I'll stamp this butterfly again. He was a cute one. So there's my butterfly on there, good. And then I'll go back with some of these. Well, my flowers are going to go right off the bottom of the card. Okay, so we're going to stamp like that. Ink up my stamp again. Or maybe what I should have done is have, oh, I should cut out the butterfly. Okay, so I'm going to change my mind again. This is how I make cards, people. They evolve as I go. So I'm going to cut another piece of cardstock for the flowers because I think I want the whole flower on there. In fact, maybe what I should do is stamp the flower first and then see what size I can cut it down to. Okay, so we shall stamp that. Sorry, gone off camera again. And I'm just letting that stamp sit so it can transfer the ink nicely onto the cardstock. If you don't have one of these smoosher tools, if you do any stamping, you want that. It's an awesome tool. Saves your hands. There, we have the perfect image. So now if I know I want it to be 4 inches high in order that it'll fit on this card, and how many inches am I? I'm 4 1/4, so I can just go 4. Take a little bit off that bottom, and that's going to work. And I don't think I want to hide too much we will go 2 1/4. No, it needs to be wider. I'm going to cut my flower off. So I'm just figuring how wide I need that to be to get all these flowers onto my card still. And since this flower is close to the edge, I want it kind of centered, so we'll just chop off a little bit by that flower as well. I'll give you another tip. Don't do what I just did. Okay, so what I did was I had my blade at the top, lined up my card, and pulled the blade down this way. If you ever find that when you're cutting out a square, it's not perfectly square, it could be because when you pull the blade down, if there's too much pressure, you're not holding this straight enough against the flat edge, it can tend to angle a little bit. It'll just shift a little bit. I'll do like that's an exaggeration, but if it does that just a little bit, it knocks your card off square. So to avoid that, instead start with your blade at the bottom and push up. That way, if it tends to shift your paper at all it's doing is pushing the paper more against this straight edge, which keeps it straight. So there's a little tip if you find that you're always cutting things, you think you're doing it square and they go a little bit crooked. That would help to prevent it. So we have here, we have this covering up my little boo-boo. And I think I still need a butterfly on there, so I'm going to use my little one I stamped here. And I'm just going to color that in. So now I'm going to color in some flowers to go onto a panel, onto my card here. And actually, I see I got a little bit of ink or something up there before I even start. My goodness. Okay, well, anyways, we're going to go with it. And I have pulled out some of my polychroma pencils, a few pinks, and I thought that might work well with the color of pinks in the background there. So I'm just going to do a little bit of coloring here. Now I get to cover up that butterfly that didn't stamp very well. So I'll put it about there. got that all on there. Then I did 2 butterflies because I kind of wanted his back wing to show up just a little bit. So I'm going to put him down there with some liquid glue. And I'll glue that down flat. Then my butterfly I'm going to layer on top. Where his body attaches to the wing, I'm just going to bend it a little bit there with my thumbnail. I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue behind his body. And that's all I'm going to use that one for. And then I want his wing to stand up. So I am going to use the scrap dots. This is like, it's the consistency of almost like a gel toothpaste. And I'm going to squeeze a generous amount out behind the wing. And you can see, hopefully on there, see, you can make that stand out quite a ways. I put a lot on there. There's quite a big gob. And I have it so that it's quite high. And then remember, there's liquid glue on the body. So I'm just going to glue his body down where that goes and hold it tight so that the glue behind his body dries nice. I want it to be slightly offset from his other wing. And then you can see where the glue behind here, you might be able to see on camera, that scrap dots, it is touching, and I can have his wing stand way up, or if I want it to be lower, I can push it and squish that glue down until it's the height that I want. And I'm just going to leave it right there so that it always stands up. Now, because I've put that on so thick, like that's probably at least a 1/4 inch thick of glue, that is going to take quite a while to dry. So then I just leave that set aside. But I do want to press the body down, and I see I've got ink thumbprints everywhere here, so my card's a little bit messy. But that's going to work anyways. And when I was fussy cutting him, I purposely cut the his antennas right off because that was just too small for me to cut around. So I'm going to take just a gel pen, which is a much narrower than what I could cut with scissors, and I'm just going to draw his antennas back on there. So there, he's got some antennas, and maybe even a couple of feet. I don't know if he really needs feet. Now it looks like he's actually sitting on the flower, which is okay too. So that's just with a gel pen, a little trick to, you can see his antennas there. He's got them back, and that way I didn't have to cut them. And you can see where his wings, I have offset them a little bit so that you can see the second wing in the background. And then, you know, of course I colored that too. It probably would be a nice idea to color the back of this wing. So instead of being white, it's got a color, but it's not too bad. You don't see it from the front there. And because that's orange, everything else, there's a little bit of a kind of a yellowish orange in the background, but it really pops because of it being a little bit different color. So there you go. There was a fun card to make.